Welcome to the What I Wish I Knew After Pregnancy Loss podcast. I am your host, Shana Southern. I am an angel mum, a rainbow mum, a pregnancy loss practitioner, and trauma-informed coach. I created the Institute of Healing Through Pregnancy Loss out of my own experience with loss in the hopes to provide understanding and healing, educating people on pregnancy loss, and creating more women or men in trained support roles. In this podcast, I hope to shed light on what I wish I knew in relation to pregnancy loss, opening up the conversation, breaking the stigma, and bringing real-life stories plus guest experts. Thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the podcast, the intersection of pregnancy loss, fertility, trauma, and purpose, having the conversations that should have been happening all along. Today, I have with me Shannon Roane. Shannon is the founder of J&J Journals, a brand dedicated to guiding women through grief, healing, and personal growth. After experiencing a traumatic ectopic pregnancy and a missed miscarriage, she turned to journaling as a powerful tool for emotional recovery. This journey inspired her to create a collection of guided journals, including Joy Comes in the Morning, a grief journal, and Held in My Heart, a pregnancy loss journal. With a heart for service and a mission to help others find hope after loss, Shannon creates spaces where healing begins one conversation, one journal entry, and one step forward at a time. Thank you so much for joining us, Shannon.
Yes, thank you so much, Shauna, for having me.
You're so welcome. So there's obviously a lot in your experience that has led you to create what you've created today. Did you want to share with us how I've briefly shared about how that sort of came about, but did you want to expand on that with us?
Yeah, so my journey began on March 26th of 2019. So 6 years ago tomorrow, for me, 6 years ago tomorrow, March 26th of 2019. This was my husband and I, this was our first pregnancy. So we're really excited about the opportunity of building our family. And on that morning, I started to have some cramping and was mostly on the left side. So I called in to my OBGYN. First pregnancy, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I was like, let me just call. So they scheduled an appointment for me to come in later that evening around 3:30. And they said, if anything changes, if there's any bleeding, to give us a call back. So I went on about my day, got ready for work, sat down, ate breakfast, and I went to the restroom prior to me about to leave out of the door, and there was blood. So I called back and they started to ask questions. Do you have any shoulder tip pain? They asked, what side are you feeling the cramps? So they asked me to go to the nearest emergency room. They would call the labor and delivery, and they were expecting me to come. So I show up, still not really expecting, why am I going to the ER? I'm just having some cramping and some bleeding. So I come in, I take an ultrasound, and usually you think when you're taking an ultrasound, you can see a screen, you can see potentially a baby, but the screen was turned away from me. So I couldn't see anything. So I thought something was going on. The doctor came back, and that's when they told me it was an ectopic pregnancy. And they let me know I also had some internal bleeding. And they said, I need you to call a next of kin to get someone here as soon as possible. We have you scheduled for surgery at 5 p.m. And the day just went that fast. For me, getting up, having breakfast, to now I'm having to get my husband to rush from work because I'm going into surgery. And it was just so traumatic. It happened so fast. I didn't really even have an opportunity to really process what was happening, what was going on in the moment. I just knew, okay, something's going on and I need you to get here. So did the surgery. And then after the surgery, the doctor told me they were not able to save my left tube. the left fallopian tube had ruptured. So I had to remove my left fallopian tube. I'm still completely in shock. So I'm not really processing everything that just happened. And it wasn't until that later that night when I was released from the hospital, they had called in some medicine to the pharmacy. So my husband and I, we were sitting in the parking lot at the pharmacy. And I just remember it was a rainy night and I'm looking at the window, just looking at the raindrops just going down the window. And it hit me all in that moment of everything I just went through. And I just completely lost it in that moment and just started crying really hard. And that's when it really registered, like all that just happened. And it was the hardest thing that I had ever encountered. I never even had surgery before. So even preparing for the surgery, they're asking all of these questions like, do you have any heart issues or have you had any issues with anesthesia? And I'm thinking, I don't know. I've never had surgery before. So it's in the moment trying to just process everything that was going on. And it was truly just devastating. And in those moments, I didn't know who to talk to. Like our family didn't even know we were expecting because it was early. So to then have to call parents and say, hey, Shannon's going into surgery. So it was also a shock in that moment to have to notify our parents what was going on. But it was a very tough time. And after that point, I suffered in silence. I didn't know who to talk to. And that's when I started to journal. It was just a blank line journal. And I used that to process my emotions, to get just everything that I had all bottled up because I couldn't speak to anyone about it. And I just started to write. There were days I would be in the car on the way to work and I would just break down crying. I would be in my office at work and it was uncontrollable. And it was just traumatic, the entire situation, just remembering everything from going into the room. It was cold, it was really bright, and just seeing that small, like silver table that they're going to put me on. And I just saw all of the nurses waiting for them to get me from one, I guess, the bed over to the table. And I just remember it like it happened yesterday. So for a very long time, I suffered in silence and I couldn't speak to anyone about it. But I did eventually, I went on to seek professional help and started to talk to a therapist. And then we wanted to try again. So we started trying again, trying to grow our family. And then on January 2nd of 2020, I had a miscarriage. And it was very tough because at this point, I'm like, I don't have any answers. Like, why is this happening? With the ectopic pregnancy, I was just told it was just a fluke. There were no other words. That was what they told me. It was just a fluke. And that's all I had to hang on to was this was just a fluke. There were no answers. And that leaves me blaming myself. What could I have done differently? Or maybe I did something wrong or I didn't do something right. So it was a blind game. I was truly just blaming myself because I didn't really have anything tangible to hold on to say, this is what caused this. So it was a very long time that I was doing this blame game. And then to go on to have the miscarriage, I'm like, okay, there has to be something. I needed answers because to say it's just a fluke or it's just something that just happens. So I did go and I went to a fertility specialist just to do testing to make sure everything was okay, and everything came back normal. Everything was fine. So I was still playing this blame game to myself because I didn't have answers, but it was truly a very tough time for me. Instead, I just didn't know how to process it. And journaling really became my outlet. It was a moment where I could write down whatever it was on my heart, whatever it was on my mind, all of the emotions, I wrote it down. And that is what truly helped release. It gave me an outlet. It gave me an opportunity to just put it down. It's no matter how crazy it sounded, I wrote it down. And that's really what led me to create J&J Journals. to give that next mom an opportunity to, if you're not really sure who to talk to, because at that point I had no friends or anyone that I knew that had gone through this before. So I felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to. So I wanted to create that space for the next person to have something or something they can hold on to say, I can let these emotions out. I'm not alone in this. And that's what really led to me creating J&J Journals.
Thank you first for sharing so openly your story. I got goosebumps when you were talking about obviously the first pregnancy, because again, both pregnancies, your ectopic and your miscarriage, you would have been blindsided by the fact that's what you were going through, because my experience was a miscarriage as well. So you think everything's okay. You think everything's going along okay. And even with your ectopic, and also just to add on to that, that you hadn't had any surgery before. So not only are you navigating your the fact that you now you've lost your baby, like your baby has died, and this is what the procedure you have to go through, navigating then on top of that, having to go through surgery, your first surgery, and that on its own can be really scary, even if you're just going in
Mhm.
for a broken finger or like a broken bone or
Right,
something. Like
exactly.
it doesn't have to be like these like life altering surgery, but it can be scary
Right.
going in and
Hmm.
getting put under because you don't know what's going to happen. It's
Right.
all out of your control.
Yes.
So not only are you navigating that, you're navigating the fact that the whole reason that you're in there, and I could imagine how traumatic that would be. And
Mhm.
the fact that also it's not recognized as trauma. You're navigating this thing that was really big for you, and no one
Hmm.
on the outside of you can validate how big that feels. And then you push it all back inside and you think, I have to deal with this alone. I have to process this alone. And that only adds to the trauma, that adds to just compounds to what you've been going through because not only have you gone through it, then you just like, I can't even talk to the medical system because they just, he go home. And then you can't turn to anyone on their family, friends because they don't understand the enormity of it. I remember, like you said, you had to, not only did they not know you were pregnant, but you had to also explain then what you were going through.
Hmm.
I remember having to make the phone call to my work. No one had known that I was pregnant, but I had to ask for time off because I was like, I can't go back. That is one of the hardest conversations to have with someone. I don't even think I got words out initially. I just cried. I heard her voice of my boss's wife on the other end, and I just burst out crying. But you in that one sentence, you just got to explain how your life has just fallen apart and almost justify why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, why this is all happening. And similar to you, journaling was something that I turned to as well. It's a really powerful way if you let it be that place for you to process the emotions. Yes, it could make it more uncomfortable because you're actually getting it all out but what you're doing in that moment is you're witnessing what needs to be witnessed so that you can move through it.
Yeah, it's, and I wish, people, if you've never journaled before, understand how powerful it is, especially in those moments where you're grieving and you feel all alone, but you have this pen and this paper where you can literally just get it all out on paper. All of all of the negative thoughts or blaming myself. I wrote about every single thing, even to the point where at one point of time, almost losing my faith and being mad at God and anger. And just, I went through all of those different stages and just writing about it. And one day I did have an opportunity, and I don't go back and read it often, but I did. I went back, I was brave enough to go back and I read what I wrote. And I was just so just moved by all of those feelings. the negative thoughts that I had that I wrote down during those times where I was going through this process, so to speak. But it was definitely what saved me because I was in a very depressive state, mainly because I just didn't feel like I could speak with anyone. I didn't know anyone to talk to. Like I said, I did end up going to seek professional help and seeing a therapist. And on my very first appointment, I did the intake so they knew why I was coming. I walk in and my therapist is pregnant. And I'm just floored. Like, this has to be a joke.
Can I pick
Do they
someone
not
else?
know?
Yeah.
I cannot believe it. Like, they know why I'm here. And she's far along. So it's the belly out there. Like, she's pregnant.
Just turn
And,
around and
she
walk
was
out and
so
just go,
apologetic.
nope.
I couldn't believe it. She was very apologetic. She was very apologetic and was willing to go ahead and try to get me scheduled with someone else. But I was like, I'm here. And I ended up having a really good connection with her. So I did stick with her as my therapist. But I'm pretty sure there was like a candid camera on the wall when I walked in and I saw her with her pregnant belly. And I'm just like, seriously, is that someone has to pop out and say, gotcha, psych, something, because they know why I'm here. They know why I'm coming here. And I walk in on my very first therapist appointment. I meet with the therapist that's pregnant. Yeah,
You would feel like it's like a big prank and you would just be like, yeah.
it felt like it. It really felt like it because I did the intake and before they match you with someone. So they knew exactly like my reasons for coming. They knew why I was coming. And maybe they didn't relay the information to her. I'm not sure, but like I said, she was very apologetic and was willing to make a switch immediately. But I was like, I'm okay. I'll stick with her. I felt like I had a really good connection with her.
Mm.
So I did decide to stick with her, and I'm glad I did.
And it is important because I do talk a lot about that we can't avoid triggers. Like our whole external world is full, and even more so after loss, is
Hmm.
filled with triggers. So you can't avoid them. They're everywhere. They're going to be even more available, not more available, more noticeable to you because of what you've gone through. So the fact that you were able to, even though that triggered, it triggered you, you were able to obviously see beyond that as well and have the connection with her
Right.
because yes, we can run away. It's so easy to run away, but then
Hmm.
essentially we're running away like for the rest of your life. Like you're running away
For
from
the rest of your
everything.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there were so many triggers. Oh my goodness. So so my husband and I, we had already had vacation planned to go to Maui, to Hawaii. And the surgery and the loss had happened the week prior. I got clearance from my doctor that I could go ahead and still travel to Maui. So we did. And I thought maybe this will just relax my mind. We'll be on vacation. It was a nice vacation, but it really wasn't a vacation because I had just had lost a pregnancy a week prior. I had just had surgery. There were certain things that I couldn't do. I couldn't even get in the ocean. I couldn't go swimming. I couldn't do a whole lot of walking. And while we were there, we were at dinner one night, and I just remember this cute little boy. He just kept coming up to my husband and almost like playing like a peekaboo type of thing. And it was so triggering in that moment. I had to remove myself. And I went to the bathroom and I just remember breaking down crying so hard in this bathroom stall. So that was definitely triggering for me. And another trigger was I used to travel for work. And I remember going through the airport and there was a lady in front of me and she had her baby in like one of the carriers and she needed her hands free to do something. And she was looking around for someone to hold her baby while she was doing things. And I'm right behind her. And I'm just like praying, please do not ask me to hold this baby. Like, so I'm gathering things in my hand and make it look like I'm not available. I have so many things because I just knew if she would have asked me to hold her baby, there's no way I would have been able to hold it together in those moments because it was still so fresh of what had happened and it was a reminder of what I had lost. So she ended up asking the couple in front of her to hold her baby. And I knew she was looking around, she was searching for someone to hold her child. And I just knew it. And I just made myself look so busy. I'm like, there's no way I could do it.
And I think in those moments, you do have to just focus on self-preservation. So
Hmm.
they're triggers, they're everywhere. You can't escape them, you can't run, you can't hide. But what you can do is then just, okay, I have to focus on me now. I have to focus on what I can do for me right now that is going to help me through this time. And if it is making yourself look super busy or filling up your hands as much as possible to say, nope, I can't do it, then that's what it is. Because you can't also then go into your full story if she turns around and she's, can you help me? And you're just like, no. Or you're holding the child and you're like, tears are streaming down
Crying,
your
like
face.
exactly.
You do just have to go into self-preservation and understand what you need to do for you in that moment. And what you need to do for you in that moment is the perfect thing for you. Might look horrible or like rude or insensitive, like to outsiders, but that doesn't matter. That's their opinion, their perception. They don't know
Right.
what's happening inside of you.
Exactly. And that's why I always say it definitely pays to be just kind to people because you never know
Mm.
what's going on or what someone has been through or struggling with in the moment. But yes, the triggers, they were there. My best friend and I, we were pregnant at the same time. And she went on to have, we were like 2 weeks apart, and she went on to have her baby, but I lost mine. So that was very hard. I'm happy for her, but I'm also breaking on the inside because I don't get a chance to experience the same joy and go on to have my baby. So that was hard as well, having going to the baby shower and just being happy for her in the moment. And I didn't get that same joy. So that was definitely also another very hard time that I was trying to work through and process in the moment or during that time because I had someone that I was very close to that was also, they were also expecting. And I wanted to be able to share those moments with her. We're best friends and just to share those moments. And I didn't have that opportunity then. But we had a second opportunity. I was blessed to have two babies. We have two kids now. And my best friend and I, we ended up being pregnant again at the same time. So it was almost like payback or something from God. Here you go. You get a second go at this. But we were able to be 2 months or 2 weeks apart. Almost, I think a week or two, yeah, 2 weeks apart again. We were able to be pregnant 2 weeks apart again. So
Yeah, it's almost like the universe giving you that, okay, now is your time. You have
yeah,
permission to do this again.
again,
There was something obviously that wasn't lined up for you the first time that then
right.
came through for you the second time. But it is difficult in those moments. I remember I was going through my fertility journey because it took us 5 years to fall pregnant. Going through all of that for me, and my two best friends got pregnant at the same time. And they made like this game where they were telling me that they were pregnant. And I was like, no, you don't understand how heartbreaking my journey has been to try
Hmm.
and fall pregnant, and I can't fall pregnant. I don't know what's wrong. And it
Hmm.
just felt like this huge slap in the face. And then my first pregnancy ended in a miscarriage then. And then that was just like 5 years of trying to end in a
Hmm.
miscarriage. I was like, what the hell? What is going on? But I can empathize with you in the sense of it would have been great if I could have joined, that when my best friends were pregnant at the same time. They did both go on and have their babies, but that kind of was the point where I had to pull away because I was like,
Yeah.
there are obviously friends like yours that you can stay connected with and be able to continue that journey with. But I think there's also moments where you have to go, is are these people the right people for me and where you are in your journey. But I'm so happy that you were able then to experience that and
Hmm.
have your pregnancies after loss. One in 4 pregnancies will result in miscarriage. 1 in 8 women will experience infertility. 1 in 100 women will experience recurrent miscarriage. And 1 in 160 births end in stillbirth. Have you been wanting to make a difference in the lives of women or men who have experienced pregnancy loss because you can see so many suffering in silence, but you just don't know how? Collectively, we can change how bereaved parents can access mental, physical, and emotional support after their experience. There is a lot of women with unhealed trauma, and there is a huge gap in the current support system when it comes to bereaved parents' recovery after loss. There are too many women and men suffering in silence. The Pregnancy Loss Practitioner Certification is a worldwide, one-of-a-kind program that gives you proven methods designed for healthcare professionals, medical staff, midwives, nurses, doulas, birth workers, coaches, and angel parents alike. The Pregnancy Loss Practitioner Certification is bridging that gap. It will give you a proven support structure to follow and education specific to pregnancy loss, created by a lost mum. It is creating more education specifically for loss so that you can enhance your service and become the point of difference. Or you can create the support that you so desperately needed in your healing after loss. This is the next level of growth and expansion you have been searching for. So does this sound like something that you have been searching for? Let's explore this more together. You can head to the episode show notes where you'll find the program application, or direct message me on Instagram and let's open up the conversation in how you can use this education. You have a gift, and I look forward to supporting you and witnessing you bring your gift to the world, healing and transforming women's lives. And I think you go on and you have these pregnancies after loss. They're obviously filled with anxiety and fear, and they're far from normal pregnancies.
Yes.
Did you obviously use your journaling to help you through that as well?
Yeah. So, man, the pregnancy after loss is, like you said, the anxiety, the fear. You're happy, but you're nervous. You're happy, but you're afraid that something will happen because it's happened before. So I really didn't like fully breathe until literally my son was in my arms. You don't want to tell people too soon because you're afraid something may happen. Going to the doctor's office, you're afraid, you know, that you're going to get bad news. Even going to the bathroom, you're afraid to see, you don't want to see blood, right? So it was all of those things that I was processing the entire pregnancy. And it really, I didn't breathe until he was in my arms, until I heard that first cry. And I'm like, my baby is here. And even with my second baby, it didn't go away. Those same thoughts, those same fears. I'm happy, but I'm also just a little scared and nervous at the same time. Throughout that entire pregnancy as well, because in the back of my mind, there's still a possibility that something could happen because it happened not once, but twice before. So I didn't, like I said, it was tough. I wanted to be happy. I was happy, but all at the same time, I'm afraid or I'm making sure, trying to do everything right because in the previous pregnancies, maybe there was just something that I did wrong, right? It's still that blame that I had where I was like, maybe I didn't do something right. So making sure you're doing everything right, eating right, taking my prenatal vitamins and all of the above to make sure my baby is as healthy as it can be and as I can be for the baby. And I had a lot of doctor's appointments, like with the pregnancies with my son and my daughter. From the very first moment that I got a positive pregnancy test, They wanted me to come in immediately to do lab work to make sure the blood levels were rising appropriately, to do early scans to make sure that the baby was in the uterus and is not another ectopic pregnancy. So even from the very beginning, from the moment I got a positive pregnancy test, I had to call my doctor, and I'm in appointments almost every other week or weekly. And it ended up being weekly, but starting every other week where I'm in the doctor's office from the very beginning.
Did they say that with your first ectopic pregnancy and obviously having to go through the surgery and removing one fallopian tube that it would like affect your fertility, or did it, what did they say?
No, they said you can still have a baby with one tube.
Yeah.
So I did go in and I got what's called the HSG, where they kind of insert, it's like a dye that goes through the fallopian tube to make sure it's not clog, there are no clogs or scarred tissue and whatnot, just to make sure everything is fine. And so I went through that process and everything was fine with the remaining fallopian tube. There was really nothing that we needed to worry about. Everything came back normal with the testing. So yeah, everything was completely fine.
Mm.
So that like I said, it just still left so many answers as to why it happened the first time. And it's like no one could say anything other than it was just a fluke. And that's the words that I had to live with after that
And yeah, that doesn't give you any comfort at all.
at
And
all.
no, and that self-blame spiral that you go into afterwards, like it is just next level. You go over everything, every single moment that led to that, like all of the days, all of the weeks that led to that moment of going through that experience. I did the same. I went for a walk and it was super hot. And I was like, that was it. I went for a walk and it was hot and my body overheated and I killed my baby. It was like these, but totally irrational. Like you would never
Right,
do anything intentional to
right,
create that experience. But yet we are very good at blaming ourselves for it happening because you don't have any other explanation. And so
right.
you go back to you. It was me. Yeah, I did it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right.
I didn't get any answers for me either. It was just, they said it was just my body's way of saying that it wasn't a viable pregnancy. Something was wrong chromosomally, and
Mhm.
that was the explanation that I got. And it could be. It doesn't help you try to make sense of what is happening at the time.
Yeah, I know they're trying to be helpful, but it's really not helpful in those moments where you're trying to figure out. Yeah, I understand you're saying that your body processing whatever, but it's still that's not an answer. That's still to me not an answer that I was okay with.
Yeah, it's still not a
Um,
definitive
and
answer
with
that
the
I'm okay with.
miscarriage, there really wasn't anything. eh, okay, and what else? And there wasn't a what else. That was just it. And you're expected to go on with your life as if nothing ever happened and to just try again. So that was very hard for me. Both pregnancies, they were wanted pregnancies, they were wanted babies. So that's why it made it so hard, is because we really wanted that. We really wanted this baby. We wanted that pregnancy. And to have it just feel like it was just snatched away from us like that was very tough. It was very hard. And so many women suffer in silence. You don't hear a lot of women talking about miscarriage or pregnancy loss. And just thank you for having a platform to speak about it. Maybe your story and my story may help the next woman open up and talk about it, or to feel like I'm truly not alone in this and that there are other women that have been through what I'm going through. So I think just having a platform that you are providing to have women know that there's someone else. You're not alone, and you can get through this.
Yeah, it is one of the most isolating journeys that you can go on, and it's one of the most the I would life altering. I don't think that there's much that comes close to that, and yet we're still told to suck it up and navigate it on our
Hmm.
own. I'm a very vocal person in terms of helping myself process. So obviously journaling was a big processing tool for me, but I also needed to talk it out. I needed
Hmm.
someone who could hear me, who could understand me, and there was nothing available. This is where, and I started to talk. When I did start to talk, people started to come out of the woodwork and say, well, that was my experience too, or this is what I went through. And I started to hear different stories. So I felt that that type of way of processing was what I needed.
Hmm.
So it felt like that natural progression to be able to create that space, like through the podcast, to be able to obviously share my story, but allow
Right.
women to come in and share theirs too, because we aren't alone. There is so many women out there who are going through this. And like you said, we so many women who are shut down and not allowed to potentially or doesn't feel safe enough to talk about their experience. But for them, even if it was just to listen to someone talking about their story, there's so many elements of our stories that obviously are very personal, but very we can we can tap into other people's stories and feel certain things in their story as our own. In that way, it's universal. Like there are certain
Hmm.
things that we all experience that are very similar. And like you said, just to know that you're not alone and you know that you can come out the other side, it's not going to be the thing that defines you or consumes you if you don't want it to be. That's the thing.
Yeah,
You do have to make that choice. If you want to sit in it, then that's completely okay. But if you don't and you want to move through what you're going through so that pain doesn't last forever, then it doesn't have to.
absolutely. And for me, grieving the loss, like I said, it's been 6 years. It'll be 6 years for me tomorrow for the ectopic pregnancy. And every March, and the day fluctuates, it's not on the exact day. I would say it's a different day in March every year, but I can tell it's like almost like my body feels or recognizes this month that it happened.
Yeah.
And there's just this wave of sadness, and I can't even explain it. It's a feeling, and
It's,
it's creeping in, but my body feels it.
yeah. Your body, it's a grief memory. It's like a muscle memory. Your body knows before you can
Mhm.
consciously rationalize it. You,
Absolutely.
and it's not a bad thing. It's not to say, oh my gosh,
Right.
I'm going to be like a mess for the rest of my life. It's just, it's not a bad thing. It's just your body's way of still processing what's happening. And that grief is a lifelong journey.
Hmm.
It's with you for life. And it's just this way of how we integrate it into our life and how we bring awareness to it and love to it.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I have felt like what you have felt too, and I couldn't make sense of it. I was like, I have no idea what's happening. I feel like I'm falling apart and I don't know.
Uh-huh. Exactly. I was like, what is going on? I was like snappy with my husband,
Yeah,
and I was just sad, and I just wanted to be left alone. And I'm like, what is it?
it's not
And
my period.
then,
I don't know what's happening.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, it's not that time of the month. I'm like, what is going on with me? And then it clicked. I'm like, it's March.
Yeah,
And this is my body remembering and grieving our loss.
yeah.
And it all made sense to me
And
once.
yeah,
Hmm.
and to give yourself permission to just be there and go through that.
Yes, and I ended up, like I said, it was throughout the weekend. And I remember on that Monday, I just needed to take a day. So I took the day off of work. and just allowed myself to feel all of the emotions that I was feeling. I journaled and I had let my kids stay home from daycare, and I just cuddled with them and all of the hugs, and eventually I was able to process those emotions and feel better throughout the day. But I needed a day to just allow myself to feel whatever it was that I needed to feel. And I just know that there will be times that this happens, that grief
Mm.
will just, when you least expect it, it will just be there.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and this is the whole, we can't dismiss our emotions because there is no rhyme or reason for it coming. It comes when it feels like it needs to. That's when your body's telling you, I need to go through this now. And you did the right thing. You took some time and you allowed yourself to witness what was going on. And this is what we need to learn to do for ourselves and really show ourselves that compassion and kindness when it comes, that it's not something to be ignored. It's not something to be dismissed and or tried to make sense of. It just needs to be. You need to just allow. And if you don't know what's going on, just sit and cry and just allow that to just be okay. And like you said, you don't know when it's coming. And it might not be every year that it
Mhm.
comes. It will just be when your body has this next kind of layer of emotion that needs to be seen.
Absolutely. Yeah, this I gave myself some grace and I was kind to myself, and I just needed that mental health day or that self-care day to allow myself to be
Mm.
and to sit in those emotions during that time. Another thing that in addition to the journals that I started to do was care packages, and it includes my journal as well, for women who have lost a pregnancy. So I put together just a few self-care items that I wish I would have had during that time. So it is my pregnancy loss journal held in my heart. There's some cozy socks, there's some body butter or some smelly stuff like body butter or body scrub, lotion, tissues, because you're going to probably drop some tears as you're processing all of those emotions. There's a shower steamer and those hydro eye gel patches for your eyes. So some help or some self-care items that I felt would have been helpful for me during that time. So I've started to put together some care packages as well to help support the next woman who may be going through the same loss. And the hospital that I had my surgery at, they actually have a program. It's called Heart Strings. And also during that time that I was grieving the loss, both losses, I did sign up to be in this program where I was partnered with a peer mentor. So it was just someone who had gone through the same type of loss. So it was really nice to find out that the hospital offers this program where that was available to me. So in order to give back, I have now become a peer mentor to another person who has experienced an ectopic pregnancy to let them know that you're not alone in this journey. There are others that have been through this, and to just tell my story and hope that it helps the next person.
I think just to have someone sitting on the other side of you who has gone through the same experience, who can just see you and like deeply see you and understand you and allow you just to feel whatever it is that you need to feel without judgment. Like that in itself would just be immensely beneficial and valuable, even if you didn't say anything. It was just to have that
Right,
person
exactly.
there where you could just let it all out. So I
Hmm.
love that you've chosen to do that. That is amazing. And you will absolutely be changing women's lives and their healing journeys from that moment. That's like you're meeting them at their most vulnerable, at the point
Right.
where so much can either go right or go wrong in their healing
Hmm.
journey. So, as we wrap up, where you've got your journals, you've
Hmm.
got now the care packages, where can people go to find more about what you're offering?
Yeah, my website is jandjjournals.com. And I am on Instagram and it's J&J_journals. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, the same. It's at J&J_journals. And like I said, the website is jandjjournals.com.
Yeah. And I'll make sure that everything is linked under the episode in the show notes and to
Mhm.
make sure that they can find you easily. Just one more question before we wrap up. What's
Mhm.
one thing that you wish you, or I say one thing, but it might be hard, but one thing you wish you knew before experiencing pregnancy loss?
If there was one thing that I wish I knew is early on, I wish I knew of these support groups that are out there or just someone to talk to in those early moments. Because I felt alone. Like I've never, I had my husband who was very supportive in the best way that he knew how to be.
Yeah.
But when you're going through this, you truly feel like you are completely alone. So I just wish early on, just having someone to talk to or to hear other stories or podcast or just something, another resource. I wish I had that early on.
Mm.
And like I said, yes, I did see a therapist later down the road, but I just wish early on, even leaving the hospital, they would have provided me with something because you go home truly feeling, okay, what's next? Where do I go from here? And I was left to figure it out on my own. So I just wish I had some resources early on where I didn't feel like I was by myself.
Yeah. And I think that I can really echo that. That is leaving the hospital with nothing and you're just left to your own devices to try and figure out what your next step is, how to navigate anything, like any of the emotions, any of the thoughts, any of the what is life after loss? What do I do? Just to have something said to you or given to you, even if you weren't ready for it at the time, just to know that it was available for the time when you are ready, when you're ready to
Right.
seek that support. Like yourself, I didn't know anything was available. I don't think I found any support groups until I was about a year or two out. And I think I saw a therapist maybe about 6 months out. So it's, yeah. But even in saying
Yeah, it's
that,
about the same time frame as
yeah,
myself. It was like 6 months to a year out before I even reached out or realized that there is something out there for me. Even if, and I've recently donated some of my journals to the hospital, so that way there is a resource that maybe they can hand off to someone. Like you said, maybe they may not be ready for it in the moment, but to know that they have something.
yeah,
So
yeah. The in when you're in the depths of grief, it's a bit hard to see outside of yourself and the immediate experience. But when you start to process and start to move through it, you can then your mind opens up to maybe what else can I do to help me through this? What else? Who else is out there that I could speak to? What other resources, like you said, are available to me? And you want them to know that it's available sooner rather than later, because spending a couple of years feeling isolated, it doesn't really help the healing process.
it makes it much harder when you're trying to navigate it alone, the best way you know how in those moments. And I'm just so grateful that I picked up a pen and a journal and I allowed myself to just get it all out.
I'm grateful that you did too, and that you now have created these beautiful, safe spaces for women to help themselves in those moments. And like you said, you don't have to go back and read it. Just get everything out, no judgment, no filter, whatever is in you in that moment, write it out. And like you said, if you don't want to go back, you don't have to. But if you feel brave
Right.
enough down the track, you can. I think it's if you do go back and read it, it's probably a really good
Mm,
way to reflect on how far you've come too.
absolutely. Yeah, that was helpful for me to reflect on how far I've come in my healing journey. And for me, it gave me that other reason why I created J&J Journals. This was the reason, this is my why, because I
Yeah.
want to provide someone an opportunity to get those feelings and those emotions on paper.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we finish up?
Just really quick, I wanted to add, and this is, I guess I would say my closing words, because I know we're at time, but healing after pregnancy loss is not about moving on. It's about moving forward with love, honoring your grief, and allowing yourself the space to heal in your own time. It's allowing yourself to heal in your own time, whatever that looks like for you, because grief doesn't have a time.
No. And just because someone else says to you, you should be over it by now, doesn't mean that you should be. It's
Exactly.
like, no, this is mine. This is me. I'm
Right.
going to take as much time as I need.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
no, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, I'll make sure that every one of your links, sorry, is linked in below so that you're just one click away.
Yes. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Shannon, so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Shana.
Thank you to all that have listened in. If this episode was valuable to you, I invite you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode. Thank you for listening in with me today. I hope you found this episode helpful. If you did, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Take a screenshot of this episode, share it to social media, and tag me at Institute of Healing _PL. I love seeing what is resonating with you right now. If you want to chat further, I invite you to connect with me through Instagram. Head over and follow my Instagram account, send me a DM, and let's open the communication. If you want to know more about how you can be the support for others, head to the show notes and fill out the application form for the Pregnancy Loss Practitioner certification. I want to also note here that what I share within the episodes is not medical advice. If you need further support, please consult your doctor. Thank you again. Much love to you. Be gentle with yourself, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode.